Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Wednesday, August 28th. It's bright and early in Pocatello, Idaho, where Josh is. I am in Gold Coast, Australia, where it is nearing midnight. I arrived here in Australia this morning at about 6:30 a.m. in Sydney. I am a husk, a shell of myself, but I am here with you on the Upshot.
Charlie, how many hours has it been since you slept last?
About 20, maybe 21. I slept as much as I could on the plane, but at some point I was just like awake because it was like 3 p.m. Eastern time and my body was not going to let me sleep anymore. And I haven't really had a chance to take a nap. So I'm powering through the jet lag. I'm doing all the right things. I'm taking my Sunset Lake CBD sleep gummies to get that little melatonin boost. Yeah. So it's all good. I'm happy to be here. What a weekend it was. Real quick plug before we go further. If you missed the Rapid Reacts this week, what are you doing? It's time to stop this podcast right now. Go to discgolf.ultraworld.com/subscribe. Get the subscription. It's $4 a month. You come back, you listen to all 5 of our hour-plus long episodes that we did during Worlds. Mm-hmm. Can't miss them. Even now, I think it's great replay value to go back and hear some of the takes that we had early in the week. Oh, my God, dude. I was so sure there was no way that Holland Hanley was not going to melt down. There was no chance. So anyway, we've already done tons of Worlds talk, and you can get all of those episodes and all of our back catalog and join us in the Discord and all that. So please do that because otherwise you're missing out, honestly. We've literally done like 6 hours of Worlds talk already. But we got plenty to get to. Isaac Robinson goes wire to wire, which, because people are having a hard time understanding this, means that you lead at the end of every round. I know that Nicholas took the lead briefly in the middle of round 4, but that's not really how you measure it in golf. So
it would be impossible to calculate with different people teeing off early and late.
And then guy teed off last. Well, he didn't have the lead from the start because he teed off last. So wire to wire, back-to-back Worlds winner. He's the first guy to go back-to-back since Ricky. Only a couple of legends have gone wire to wire. It's guys like Climo.
Yep.
He's on the short list in a lot of ways with this win. And meanwhile, Eveliina Salonen takes it down in FPO in a tremendous bit of television entertainment. I mean, those last couple live rounds in particular were just grab some popcorn and buckle up because it was just crazy swings on every single hole, it felt like. Eveliina survived a bottom 5 putting performance at the tournament to win her first world title. She becomes the first Finnish player to win a world championship. Josh, it was. I feel like the world has really lived up to the billing this year.
It did, and I think that's in part because of some great courses. It's in part because we have more and more players who are able to compete and be a part of it at the top. Nicholas is now continuing his podiums and just collecting podium medals for majors and always can be looked to keep it interesting and stay in the mix at majors lately. You have lots of top guys who are kind of hanging around that always made us question whether or not Isaac was safe or not. And then over on FPO, you just have 2 players who are guaranteed to keep life interesting because they play the best disc golf. When they're at the top of their game, they play the best disc golf in the division. And they also are just some of those volatile players that we've ever seen. And so it really delivers and creates some setups, and the storylines that we were looking for were present there in Worlds. And I think we had a couple of those good ones, and they really did show up, and it was a great entertaining weekend.
We're going to primarily focus today on the champions and some of the more kind of uplifting storylines, there's a lot of, finger pointing to be done and questions to be asked about players from the tournament that didn't live up to their expectations. We're going to get into some of those things next week. We're also going to do some mailbag, so please send in your questions or your thoughts or your comments about the World Championships. Upshot at ultiworld.com. Let's begin talking a little Isaac Robinson. This is such an unusual win, Josh, because Isaac hadn't won anything since his last Worlds win. In fact, he is the first MPO player since the start of the Elite Series, back when the National Tour kicked off in 2003, so more than 20 years ago, to not win any majors or Elite Series between the Worlds wins. So this is like literally unprecedented. And then he comes out and he dominates everybody. I mean, think about it. 2 weeks ago, it's like everyone's like anointing Gannon. And we were in here talking about like, if Gannon wins, it's the Gannon era.
Yep.
You can't say that now.
No.
Right?
Not.
I mean, I think obviously Gannon is still a tremendous talent, one of the best players. I think if you run the simulation 1,000 times, he probably wins at least a third of the Worlds, but not on this weekend and not against this Isaac Robinson.
Listen,
he cooked.
He did cook. Someone told Isaac twice or it's luck, and he took that seriously. And comes out, gets another Worlds win. It's so impressive to watch the way Isaac plays golf when he is at the top of his game and in peak form. And this is something that you talked about prior to Worlds coming in, was that he was looking better. He was looking like the Isaac that we saw last year when he played his best. And that is something that when Isaac is given the opportunity to shape discs in woods and require accuracy, it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a forehand, because he has a masterful backhand that is better than anybody else in the world. And that's why he's the world champion. You had guys who putt a little bit better than him. I mean, he's a good putter, don't get me wrong. But you do have guys who putt just a little bit better than him. You have guys who throw better forehands. You have guys who throw further. But when it comes to ability to shape the disc, it almost feels like Isaac Robinson has a remote control after it comes out of his hand. And that is an elite skill, and one that, even if it doesn't mean he's going to win every single week, means that he is always going to be in contention on courses that properly challenge a complete skill set, because I think it makes up for his deficiencies in a way that elite power doesn't always cover deficiencies in your game elsewhere. He's a well-rounded player who has an elite game in the area that does the best at covering up anything that maybe he's not the best at.
And I think that's one of the things, right, about Worlds.
Yep.
This is not a one course, bomber course, forehand course. Not that those exist.
Or even like Idlewild, like a crazy wooded,
sure,
a little bit lucky.
But let me ask you, if it was 5 rounds of Idlewild, who wins?
Isaac might. He very well could. Probably. But you saw what happened at the end of the 3 rounds, and I think Idlewild has a capacity to do that more than these courses did, right? And same thing, like if you think like Northwood Black, right? If you did 5 rounds at Northwood Black for a Worlds title, there's a reason Presnell came out and was able to win that, right? And it's in part because he has a skill set that sets up for it, but in part as well because Northwood has trees in the middle of the fairway on some holes, and great shots are not always rewarded, and that's a fair complaint that you can make about that course. This World's course, and even last year's with Vermont, are top tier World's class courses that challenge a complete game. And
that's what Isaac has.
That's Isaac.
I mean, obviously he's able to hide from the forehand a little bit, but he's learned to compensate for that with turnovers that are tremendous.
Hole 16 at North or at New London.
If you can make it work, I mean, I think it's a lower percentage shot in general, but like if you have it, you have it. And he clearly, when he's on, he has it more than anybody.
Yep.
And you could see that all weekend. The other thing is his mentality, Josh, is just so steady. I was impressed by this last year, and I think he showed it again this weekend. He survives a kind of a pretty big speed bump in the middle of round 4. Ends up not bogeying the back nine, gets a bunch of birdies, salvages the round, and then comes out in the final round and, other guys have to play aggressive, and that Ivy Hill course is not very friendly if you're not absolutely locked in. And if you're trying to be aggressive, you're going to go out of bounds a lot, and that's what happened. We watched guys just right out of the gates taking big numbers. So instead, Isaac plays a more conservative style, gets the birdies on the holes where he's comfortable, and is able to just sort of like make it look easy. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Isaac now, Josh, has not lost when he's entering the final round with a lead at an Elite Series or a major. Idlewild 22, Champions Cup and Worlds last year, and Worlds this year.
Plays
Those
great.
are his wins.
He plays great with a lead.
Gets the lead. See you later. You're not catching him.
And you point out in terms of that mentality about like what it looked like in the final round when he's able to play steady. I think that when you think about it, right? Isaac is only out shooting Calvin, for example, and even less so with Nicholas, one stroke every round. That's the difference, right? One stroke is the difference between Isaac and Calvin through rounds 1 through 4. But the problem is that sets up for a final round that creates an insurmountable problem for other players to overcome. And this is exactly what happened at Vermont last year. He came in with 3 strokes because he shot better than everyone on average by about 1 stroke. And that doesn't take a lot, but what it does is it really allows him to focus on creating almost like a target score. That means he's able to just let go of some holes that don't go his way. And, we thought that Isaac was going to win with a 6 down, 6 down. Like if that's what he shot rounds 4 and 5, that's what he was going to get. And it only took a 6 and a 5, and he still won by a handful of strokes because he just is able to walk away from some holes because he's done the work ahead of time. And that is just a credit to smart golf. And that's why I love 5-round tournaments.
Such smart golf.
It rewards smart golf. It rewards strategy. It is 90 holes of golf. And if you can keep a good perspective about how each of those holes matters in the big picture, I think you'll find that in most cases, 3 holes doesn't make a difference unless your name is Cat Merch, right? That is, and so that allows him to play the kind of golf that he wants to. It's impressive, it's spectacular, and he's a 2-time world champion.
Let's hear from him right now. We're going to interview Isaac. Great chance to catch up with him again. First time since we talked to him last Worlds after his win. So the now 2-time world champion. 2-time baby! Reacts people know what I'm talking about. He joins us next right here on the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Pound just released the Ambassador Octothorpe colorways for Aaron Gossage, Erica Stinchcomb, Gavin Babcock, Ellie Mittling, and Chandler Fry. So go check out all those brand new colorways. They've also got new solid black double convertible Rufuses in stock, new fanny pack colors, and even new Pound branded flight towels. And I gotta be honest, one thing I'm super excited about, maybe you've seen this, new prototype out for the Vagabond, their new side carry bag that's coming soon. They're going into the refinement process, so keep your eyes peeled for another new style of bag if that's what you're into. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out all the options. The aches and pains of age can creep up on you quickly. That doesn't mean you have to suffer in silence. Our sponsor, Sunset Lake CBD, has just what you need to soothe your aching joints and calm down those sore spots. As hemp farmers, the folks at Sunset Lake know what it means to be sore after a long day in the fields. That's why they make their products with top shelf ingredients, including CBD they grow themselves. From salves and rubs to gummies and tinctures, Sunset Lake CBD has everything you need to find relief at the end of your day. So if you're out for a long day of disc golf, and I've had this myself, carrying the bag, maybe playing 2 rounds in a day, and you're getting up in age a little bit, need a little bit of Sunset Lake CBD, like a salve on your back after a long day of disc golf. I'll tell you what, feels amazing. You go to Sunset Lake CBD, offering listeners 20% off all orders if you use code UPSHOT at checkout. So sunsetlakecbd.com, use code Upshot at checkout. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. Joining us now on the Upshot is the back-to-back world champion. He led at the end of every single round this year and never really let it get all that interesting. Isaac Robinson joins us once again on the pod. Isaac, I think the last time we had you on was when you won your first world championship last year. Congratulations once again. What is it about Worlds that seems to bring the best out of you and your game?
Yeah, I think Worlds is one of those where it kind of brings the best out of everybody, because it's such a big tournament, and you put so much time and effort preparing. I spent a lot of time preparing and getting ready for this tournament. The whole week before, I was just hours on the putting green, hours in the practice field. I think I got 5 rounds at each of the courses. So my game was just feeling really good and very dialed. And I think those courses, Worlds courses, we play high quality courses. I think that benefits my game well. There's no, especially at London, it's a fair wooded course, with open fairways where if you hit the line, you're going to be rewarded. And I think that's something that I just enjoy playing. And so if I can enjoy playing a course, I perform better, during the tournament as well.
I want to reference a Facebook post that you commented on. They shared on the broadcast that had been circulating. It said, I don't remember who posted it, but they said when they watch you play every other tournament, they ask, how did you win Worlds? And when they watch you play Worlds, they ask, how don't you win every other tournament? And you commented same. And I want to know then, because... Was
it a hoax? I thought I saw something about this being a hoax.
Was it a hoax?
No, that was me.
Okay. Nice.
Cool. So I can, and I won't name tournaments, but I can think of courses that probably don't qualify as fun courses that are fair in your mind. I can name stretches of the tour when you probably don't have the same kind of time for preparation. But there have to be other tournaments and times in the season, other majors, Champions Cup, for example, like you did last year, that I would imagine you would approach it with a very similar focus. Why do you not feel like your success at Worlds has been replicated at other points earlier this season?
That's a good question. Yeah, there is, I think, something different for me about Worlds where I'm going into it with kind of a different game plan. And the game plan is to just be in contention at the end of the week. It's more of a survival disc golf, strategy, rather than these 3-day elite series where you just have to go out and birdie everything, no matter what. And you have to kind of always stay in contention. But with a tournament like Worlds and the other majors where you have 4 or 5 rounds, you can afford to have a mediocre round because everybody's going to have a mediocre round. And so that switches up the style of play for me, where I play a lot more conservative, a lot more safe. And I think I'm able to score well when I have that mindset. And so tournaments like, Champions Cup, I think I got like 20th or something this year. And it just I didn't put the time and the effort that I needed to perform well at that tournament. And, you can see where I finished up. But European Open, Portland, Idlewild, the tournaments that I am excited to play and the tournaments that I enjoy playing, I typically do, like I said, a little better on because, I just love those courses.
Charlie, if I might follow up with that real fast. My one question then, have you considered playing less tour events that take place before those ones that you enjoy and are 4-rounders, whether that be an Elite Plus or another major, in order to kind of create that preparation to give yourself better chances of winning those events?
Absolutely. Especially with, I'm getting married in this off season in November. So, traveling with a wife is going to be probably look a little different than traveling with the boys. And I've definitely considered, Chris Dickerson, the way he tours. He plays the big events, the ones that are close to him, and I've definitely considered that. So I might see my schedule switch to something like that in the future.
Are you planning to be out on the road once you get married, like in an RV type situation, or are you going to get a house and have like a home base?
We're not going to get a house at home, but we're going to do Airbnbs and host homes and stuff like that. We have a lot of connections on the road, so it should be relatively easy.
Nice. I'm curious, we haven't really seen that many players ever win back-to-back worlds, and even fewer of those players have been able to win in the fashion that you've won, particularly this year, but even to an extent going back to last year. And I've just been kind of thinking about that. Like, you mentioned the preparation, and it sounds like your routine. I mean, I know there was a video of you somewhere on social media getting in tons of putting practice after the fourth round, and grinding. But you're not the only player who's out there practicing a lot. Your friends are out there playing those practice rounds with you, right? They're getting these reps in too. And many players on tour are incredibly talented, and yet, you outperform them pretty significantly this weekend. So I'm kind of thinking about like, why is that? Like, is there something about your game in particular that is translating really well, either on these particular courses, or like there's some part of your skill set and mentality that's shining through? I'm just curious if you think there's anything there. Because like everyone's preparing, but then they're taking bogeys and you're not. So like, what is the difference there? Like, and you might want to ascribe it to randomness, but when it happens twice at the biggest tournament of the year in back-to-back years, and you lead every round, like that's not random.
Yeah,
there's something there. So what is that?
For sure. I think these courses are very similar to Vermont courses. We had one wooded and one more open. And the thing about the open course is that it's very much placement shot heavy. Like you have to put the disc where you want it to go. And you can't just throw it into a open field as far as you can. And so I think both style of courses are actually very similar. Even though one has trees and one doesn't. New London obviously fits my style very well. There's a lot of, turnovers, flip up hyzers. I was throwing a lot of putters off the tee. And that's what I love. That's the disc golf I love. Ivy Hill, though, it's very much the same thing where you're throwing these kind of touchy shots that land where you want them to land, and you have to stay within the ropes. And there's more room to hang a hyzer out wide, but at the end of the day, you have to drop it exactly where you want. And I think that's something that I excel at. And there wasn't a huge advantage for distance. So I wasn't losing strokes to the big distance players. In addition to that, I feel like my mindset, my mentality, I don't ever give up in a round. Even if something is looking like the wheels are falling off, like they were in round 4. There's little bumps in the road there. And I told my dad, I was like, I'm just going to birdie these next few holes and get out of here and kind of salvage the best round that I can. Instead of getting angry and upset and kind of just giving up. I kind of have a fighter's mentality when it comes to that. I hate quitting, I hate giving up, and I hate losing. So kind of all of those things put together, I think, make for a good weekend.
Do you think that your conservative approach, at least on some holes, paid off relative to other players maybe trying to go for it a little too much? I mean, obviously we saw some people kind of burn themselves in the final round as they were trying to chase, but even earlier in the tournament, it felt like we watched people kind of take a big number on a hole where they could have played it for par and been fine. Do you feel like that ended up being a pretty significant advantage for you this week?
I think so. Hole 5 comes to mind in particular. Watching Calvin, who has plenty of distance to get that hole, he put it at the top, and then he still ended up throwing it out of bounds and taking a bogey. And, that was kind of a free stroke for me. And I think, if I had seen Calvin, he needed to gain 5 strokes, so he wasn't really going to lay up any hole. But I think, if I saw a couple more competitors play that smart and play, just the easy par, I think I would have been a little more nervous. Just because I'm like, oh no, like, I'm not gaining strokes and I'm not losing strokes on them, but they have a good game plan and they're going to execute it. And so that would have been a little concerning, I think, from my angle. But yeah, it's also hard because if they have the distance, that they're going to go for it, because they should hit those shots, 80-90% of the time. So it definitely paid off. The OB was very tight out there, and so I was very happy with how my par plays worked.
We see New London and Ivy Hill for the first time on tour, and you said that you like these courses. I want to know, what is it that you liked about them, and things that you feel like if it were to return on tour as an Elite Plus or future events would need changed if we were to play it again?
Yeah. New London, I would love to see stay the same. I know that that's probably not going to happen with all of the development going in there, but New London was such a fun course. I think my favorite things about it were just that if you hit the line and you hit the gap, you were going to get through the fairway. There was no trees in the middle of the fairway, no weird roots, rocks, stumps. Really, if you hit the line you were going for, the disc would end up pretty much where you wanted it. And I love woods golf like that. As far as Ivy goes, I think there was maybe 3 or 4 holes that I would change. And it might just be a preference thing for me, but I would flatten out some of the green on 14. That hill is, not only is it not the safest hill to walk up, but it's also, I think all the rocks around the green make it a little unfair. It kind of boils down to, is my upshot going to be lucky or not? And I think that's kind of a lame thing to decide at World Championships, especially, or a big tournament. To flatten out the green a little bit up there, or clear out the rocks or something. 17, also one of those ones where it was just so difficult to stick the green. And I think you need some hay bales or some sort of blocker behind the basket so that the shots that hit directly under the basket won't skip long OB. But if you still air a shot past the basket, you're going OB because it was a bad shot. But the ones that hit the ground should stay in bounds. You should not be going to a drop zone for making it through those trees and hitting right by the basket and trickling OB. Other than that, I think the course was pretty solid. I liked a lot of the holes. I liked the shot shapes. The venue was just incredible. Just a beautiful place.
It really was immaculate on the ground, wasn't it? I mean, I was, that's the first thing I noticed when I went out there. I was wow, like this place has been manicured down to the inch, like everything, string, rope. Very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about 14 a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Your upshot in the final round did get lucky. It looked like it was going to roll away, and then it didn't. Mm-hmm. And big sigh of relief. Nicholas dead centers a putt from at the bottom of the hill. It spits out and it rolls down the hill. He takes a bogey. You take a par, and that didn't 100% decide the tournament, but it was like Nicholas was right there. And if he drains that putt, then, maybe we're talking about like it getting kind of interesting down the stretch.
Oh, yeah.
Did you talk at all to him about that as you played the rest of the round or afterwards? Just like that moment and that situation on 14?
Yeah. As a player, who knows how that feels. The last thing I want to do is kind of hear other people come up and be like, man, that sucks. Just because, yeah, everybody knows it sucks. And, you don't need to say that necessarily, especially as somebody leading the tournament. You don't want to hear like, oh man, yeah, that was rough. But I did come up to him and I was like, dude, that hole sucks. And that was kind of it. We were walking up the fairway at 15. I was like, dude, that was messed up. And then we just kind of left it at that. It wasn't a long conversation. But yeah, it was definitely, looking from my angle, the putt looked absolutely perfect. And I knew he was going to make it. I knew he had to birdie, and I knew he was going to clutch up in a moment like that. And so, yeah, I can only imagine how devastated he was when it spit out and rolled 120 feet down the hill. Just a terrible, terrible feeling.
When you are so he misses that putt. At that point, did you consider the tournament like wrapped up, locked in? You just were going to lay everything up, and you felt like there was nothing else anyone was going to do?
Yeah, I wanted to birdie 15. Ended up throwing it straight into the first tree. I knew that if I birdied 15, I was getting pretty much guaranteed par on 16. And I knew he was going to have to go for 16, which, big distance is not necessarily his strong suit. So that played, to my advantage as well. When I missed 15, I was like, all right, well, 3 strokes is fine. I was already counting on a 2-stroke swing on 17 just because anything could happen there. And so I was like, all right, I still have 1 stroke going into 18. And I can play for par, but I can also get a decently easy birdie because I've been playing that hole well. And then of course after 16, when his drive went OB, that was kind of the nail in the coffin, I think, for him. And that was when I kind of allowed myself to relax a little bit and just play for par. He and Calvin both Nicholas got bogey, Calvin got double. And at that point, even if I stick 17, or if I miss 17, he sticks it, have a 2-stroke lead going at 18, and it's pretty easy par. So it's pretty much locked up at that point.
It is often said that you can't win Worlds in the first round, but you can lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet that was your best round. You shot an 11 down, and if you inverse the order of your rounds and you shot your 5 under that you shot in the final round at the beginning, and then you worked your way up to an 11 under in the final round, everybody would have been talking about how you won it in the final round. Do you have any sense that maybe you won this tournament in the first round? I know that's reductive in a 5-round tournament, but looking back,
when you put it that way, I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, I think getting that 11 under, which is kind of funny. I thought 10 or 11 would kind of be the standard at New London, but we saw, in the 3rd round, people weren't really coming close to that score. So 11 under was just a very solid start. I think better than I thought it was, and then it definitely. My goal was 8 under for each round. I figured 8 under each round would win the tournament. And so having that 3-stroke cushion over my 8 under average was really nice, kind of going into the next few rounds. And it allowed me to play with a certain amount of freedom to where, if I shot 6 down, I'd be like, oh, well, I'm still right on pace to where I want to be. And so it was definitely a crucial first round for me. I think more than I realized at the time.
What was having your dad on the bag like? I don't remember if he was on at Worlds last year, but are you? I don't know. I mean, how much does your dad know disc golf? Are you talking through shots with him to use him as a sounding board? How do you use your dad as a caddy, and what role did that play in your win?
Yeah, he's definitely a sounding board. I can just pretty much say anything to him. Frustrations, excitement. A lot of the time, though, we're just talking about random stuff. We're just kind of talking about light, surface level, just here and there things. As far as shots go, he doesn't give me a whole lot of advice, mostly just because he trusts my selection. I think he's 975 rated. So decent golfer on his own terms, but he knows my game well, and he knows what I'm capable of and kind of my skill set. And so the one thing I told him to tell me for this tournament was to look at all of the options, because I'm somebody who steps up to a shot, and the first option I see is usually the one I go for. And sometimes that can be wrong. And so I told him, I was like, make sure I'm looking at all of the angles, all of the shots. And he did a great job of that. He reminded me several times to kind of just play safe, play smart, and take the higher percentage shot rather than go for something crazy. So yeah, just great all around caddy, really.
All right, I'm going to pose. I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Somebody asked in our Discord, would you rather have Gannon Buhr's last 2 seasons or Isaac Robinson's last 2 seasons? And I thought I would ask you that question. Like, if you could trade Gannon's wins over the last 2 years for, your World's wins and 3 majors, would you do it?
No. No.
I think that was the consensus in the Discord too.
Yep. Yeah, I was thinking the other night.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was thinking the other night, I haven't been winning the Elite Series. This World's win was my first win since last year's Worlds. So it's been almost a year. And I was thinking, how many Elite Series would I trade for a world title? And, I think the answer, I don't know if there's a number,
Wow.
Maybe 10 Elite Series, 8 Elite Series, for one world title. But I don't know. I'd be interested to hear. I'll have to ask Gannon when he wakes up this morning. See what he said. See what he has to say.
And that's why you win Worlds and he doesn't. You're up at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Josh and I have discussed that exact topic. We've set the number more for a major than specifically Worlds at about 4-1. But I mean, you just came out. You are a world champion, 10-1. That's maybe that's the exchange rate.
Maybe. I think, I don't know, Worlds titles are just something that kind of puts you down in the history books. Puts you down as somebody who has these titles. And, I don't know, maybe it's because I haven't won a lot of Elite Series. Maybe I just don't know what they feel like yet. But but Worlds titles feel pretty good.
I think a lot of people would trade places with you.
Yeah. Let us know if Gannon does. I'm curious now.
All right. I'll let you know.
Okay. You are coming up at the end of your contract this year. And you're going to go into contract negotiations with 2 world titles, 3 majors under your belt now. What are your priorities in contract negotiation that you're hoping to get, whether that be, compensation wise, structure, plan for your tour life, like you talked about a little bit next season, sticking with the same manufacturer, or, how would you rank important priorities as you go into that negotiation?
Yeah, I think the priorities for me are obviously compensation. I want to be able to make a living, and I want to be able to stay out on the road. And, I think I've put enough work in over the past several years to kind of prove myself as somebody who deserves that in a lot of ways. As far as like discs go, I would love to have work with a company to make a disc, my own, to be able to design it, be able to tell them this is what I want, this is what I want it to look like. That's very exciting. And I've gotten to do that, to some extent with Prodigy, which is great. And yeah, as far as companies go, I'm excited to see the offers because, I've been with Prodigy for probably 6-7 years at this point, brief stint with the MVP in, 2018, 2019, and, went right back to Prodigy. So Prodigy's great. I love them, but I'm also interested to hear what other companies have to say, other offers, and, really just looking forward to kind of working all that out in the off season.
I I'm not going to ask you to give away the negotiation bag right here and tell us exactly what you're looking for. But I want to phrase it this way. We are no longer in the post-COVID peak of contracts. Right after COVID, disc golf manufacturers were giving out crazy contracts with tons of money it felt like just about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You are negotiating in a very different disc golf business environment, one in which sales have slowed. People are returning back to their other hobbies and things that they can now do and travel because COVID's not an issue. And so, there is a contraction of the industry. We don't really have a great insight into other players' contract negotiations that took place last offseason, for example. But I'm sure that players talk amongst each other and get kind of some idea of numbers. Are you confident that you are going to get a salary that you're going to be happy with in this offseason, or are you nervous about that?
Yeah, I think thinking realistically, I don't know the ins and outs of what each company is looking for as far as, compensation. I know I'm not going to get $1 million deal. That's just not realistic. I would love to get a 6-figure deal. Above that would be great. But my deal with Project right now is pretty good, pretty close to that. And, so I'm I'm very happy with how much I'm making. Obviously would love to make more. It's a job. You'd love to get a raise. So yeah, I'm just looking. I really don't have a gauge for what companies are willing to pay. Because I don't know what Gannon's getting paid. I don't know what a lot of people are getting paid. And so it's hard for me to tell what to expect necessarily. Thankfully, I have an awesome sports agent with Blake Schaefer, who has a very close relationship with a lot of companies, and he is helping me out, talking about all this stuff. And so he has a good idea of what companies are willing to pay, and he's gonna, we're waiting until the off season, but we're gonna be talking about all of that stuff later down the road.
Awesome. I want to swing back to Worlds real quick because I want to go back to maybe the only truly bad sequence for you for the week, and that was on hole 6 and 7 in round number 4 when you took a double bogey and then a bogey back to back, and all of a sudden, like, everything felt all of a sudden close again after it kind of felt like you'd had this cushion. How did you respond to that moment, and then kind of gather yourself to eventually retake the lead by the end of the round? Because it felt like it was a little bit on the tipping point, and certainly in FPO we watch players hit those spots and crash down to earth in many cases. So how did you make it through that moment, and what was going through your mind?
Yeah, on hole 6, I did the one thing you cannot do, and that was to throw it right. If anything, you have to throw it way left just to cross inbounds and take a guaranteed 4. So I took a very unnecessary double there. And honestly, I thought it was going to be more because I wasn't sure if my upshot had crossed in by the basket. And so I was like, well, I'm going to be throwing another one from back here. And I'm looking at a triple at best. Thankfully, crossed up there, got the double. And that was kind of my first big mistake. And so stepping onto the tee pad of hole 7, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to blow this. And there's a lot of nerves on that tee shot, and I had just shanked it way right on 6. And so I was like, I'll make the adjustment. And then I threw it way left on 7. And 7 was one of those, that's pretty much a guaranteed birdie hole. It's pretty easy, nothing crazy about it. And suddenly I'd lost, I think it was 5 or 6 strokes to Nicholas in 2 holes. And then, after hole 9, he had taken the lead by 1, which was like, I was just like, what happened? It happened so fast. And so I told my dad, I was like, I just need to birdie the next, 3 or 4 and try to get to 5 under. My goal for that round, after having that bad stretch, was just 5 down. And I was able to, turn it around, kind of take the lead again, and looked up, and I finished at 6 down. And so it was better than I thought it could be. Definitely didn't expect to shoot 6 down that round. But it was just, I told myself I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to get upset. I'm just going to keep plugging away and playing my game. And then when I looked up at the end, it was, a decent round after all.
What did you do to celebrate after you won your second world title?
Went to Texas Roadhouse with the guys.
Oh my God.
And well, which is funny. I
Texas
saw Eveliina
Roadhouse.
Eveliina was also there.
Dude.
Yes. I think it was the only place that was open by the time we wrapped everything
All
up.
right. So someone needs to call Texas Roadhouse and get them as a title sponsor of some important tournaments, because Dickerson, Eveliina, we hear all the time Texas Roadhouse. Now,
Yes.
Timing makes sense, but that's great.
Hey, it's some decent food too. Pretty good.
Josh, you and I need to go to Texas Roadhouse and do a show from Texas Roadhouse at some point.
Love that idea.
We've been thinking on a nickname for you, Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some ideas coming out in the chat, and so I'm going to throw some past you and just see if any of them feel like they're interesting to you. And I'm going to try to remember. There's 3 that I feel like were in the conversation. The first one is the Georgian gentleman, or just the gentleman. The second one is the natural. Mm-hmm. And what was the third one, Josh?
I think the third one was the Archer.
The Archer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like the Archer.
The Archer?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, that obviously ties in well with my logo.
Yeah.
And kind of my style. So I like
Point
that one.
shoot.
Right. Yep.
All right. You don't get to choose your own nickname, but we will take it into consideration.
All right.
All right. So what the heck do we even have going on right now? I just traveled for I'm still awake from 40 hours ago. I'm in Australia. Nothing this weekend, and then we have D-Glow. Are you just giving you motivation to feel like, hey, I want to take this momentum and roll into these DJPG playoffs coming up and win a bunch at the end of the season? Now that I feel like your form has come, it was pretty good before Worlds. You almost won Idlewild if you didn't have that blow up hole. So I imagine you're feeling extremely confident in your game. And how do you feel about the upcoming events? And going back to Vermont's going to feel pretty good, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. D-Glow is one of those where I love the disc golf community out there. The course isn't my favorite. So I don't really care for that event too much. But I think I got 7th there last year. So I would be stoked with the top 10, out of D-Glow. And then of course we, go to Vermont. In between that, going to Canada for an A tier, the Q series, the Innova RIP or something like that. But yeah, very excited for Vermont, excited for MVP. Coming down the stretch, you got USDGC and the Tour Finals. So I'm looking at, at least one of those tournaments I would love to take down, if not more than that. Take down a couple of them. But D-Glow is one where I would be happy with a top 10, top 5 finish.
You now have 2 of the 4 majors. Now you already had 2 of the 4 majors. You win Worlds again, right? But it feels like by winning another one, it's the case of, all right, Isaac's really good at the majors. Mm-hmm. As you look ahead, a career Grand Slam has to be on your mind. What do you think your chances are at USDGC and then at the major that's replacing the European Open in Tallinn next year as well?
Yeah. As far as USDGC goes, that's one that's been on my radar, I think, ever since I started disc golf. Just watching, it was one of the first tournaments I remember watching Steve Brinster take it down, I think in 2013 or something. And so that's always been on my want to win list. And I think I've gotten top 10 past 4, if not 5 years in a row there. So I'm very close to taking that one down. Finished with a podium last year, and really looking to improve on that this year. And as far as Tallinn goes, Estonia, I didn't get to play the course this year. I went to European Open, and then I went back home. But I like the look of the course, and I think that would fit pretty well into my play style. And so if they keep the course the same, and we have four or five rounds out there, I think I have a good chance of taking that one down too. And I told Terry and Nate Doss that after Worlds, I was like, the career Grand Slam is definitely on the list of things I need to do, things I want to do before I retire.
That's legit. Before you retire, you're a little young to be talking about using even the word retire right now.
It's true.
Depends, Charlie. Right. If he gets that bag, he rides off in the sunset.
Isaac, congratulations once again. It's quite the achievement, and your name goes up there with some pretty heavy hitters to have won back-to-back and have won wire-to-wire. So soak it in. Hope you're having a really nice time enjoying this last couple days.
Thank you. Yes, I have.
All right. Isaac Robinson, the Archer, with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thanks again to Isaac Robinson for stopping by. It's always a really busy week when you win a big tournament. Everybody wants a piece of your attention, so we always appreciate when someone stops by the Upshot. Josh, I'm curious for your thoughts on what we heard from Isaac today.
I just about died in my seat when he said Texas Roadhouse. I guess that's the spot, man.
I genuinely don't think I've ever been to one.
I think I've gone like twice, and I usually have to span it out by about 5 years, because then I go back and I go, oh yeah, this is why I don't come to this restaurant.
So you're not a fan.
I'm not a fan of Texas.
Coming in on here and hating.
Well, that's part of what surprises me so much. Like, don't get me wrong, their rolls and their honey butter, delicious, amazing.
I swear we've had this conversation.
We might
like 2 or 3 times every time we talk about this.
I just and listen, if there's nothing else open, then you got to do what you got to do. But like, I think yeah, I'm not a huge Texas Roadhouse fan. Makes me laugh every time people say they go celebrate at Texas Roadhouse, but that's okay. Other reactions. It's funny because, I made the joke before Isaac came on, twice or it's luck, and. But still, even as I think about it, I'm like, man, he obviously plays well with more rounds, plays well in the woods, and both of those things are favorable for him at Worlds, and are always then going to give him an advantage then in that case. But hearing from Isaac, there is a very real possibility that he continues to win majors and more world championships while not winning that many Elite Series events. And it's so odd to me because when I think of players who win majors prior to winning Elite Series, or have only won one Elite Series and then win majors, my attitude is always like one of two things. Either one, they got hot, had some breaks go the right way, and they had a course that set up really well for them, and they had a spectacular weekend. Presnell, that's case in point right there, right, is who I think of. The second thing that I think of is that this is a sign of things that are coming, right? Is if it's, they're a young player. I think Gannon Burr, when he wins USDGC, I don't think there was any doubt in anybody's mind that Gannon was going to go on to win a whole bunch more. And that ended up being true. But with Isaac, he may never win at the rate Gannon does. But when he retires, would it be outrageous for us to say that he's got, 3 or 4 world championships and an extra 2 or 3 majors to boot with the career Grand Slam?
Can't count him out now, not with the way things are going.
No, that's but and that to me is something that is so fascinating that it almost, in a way, reminds me of Paul Macbeth after COVID, when it was like, oh, he may not show up week to week, but when the majors come, Paul McBeth will be there. It's how Isaac Robinson feels. And it's so crazy because he's so early in his career, and it's not like he's, the most dominant player on the earth prior to, and I don't think he will ever be. But he has the tool set, the attitude, the game style, and preparation that makes me think that he can continue to win majors and just be amazing at the majors and be good everywhere else. And what a career it would be.
How can you not feel that way? What did you think about him saying 10-1 Elite Series to Worlds?
Oh, man. Well, so here's the thing, right?
It's not just, listen, it's not like we just come on this podcast and we make it up and we say, oh, Worlds is the most important. Listen to me, like, we never have said something like that intense about how much it means, but that's how much it means.
Yep. I already knew it was more than 5-1 because I look at, Ricky's 5-win season, and I think any player would trade Worlds for that 5-win season. So in my mind, it was already 5-1, no doubt about it. Once you start approaching, I think once you start looking at the 7 or 8-1, then you start looking at question marks because, Worlds is important, but I imagine winning 8 tournaments in a year, especially if you can add one of a major not Worlds in one of those 8 wins. But maybe that's cop out. If it's Elite Series only,
it's an amazing year though.
Right, that's an amazing year. That's a lot of lead card coverage. That's a lot of frisbees, commemorative discs from tournament wins that you get to sell. Right, there's a lot of value that comes in winning 8, 9, 10 events in a season. But I mean, 8 probably the minimum in my mind right now.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I would love to get we have to ask players in our next survey, how many Elite Series wins would you need to give up a Worlds win? See what people say.
Rick says 3.
Answer's going to be all over the map. All right. We have more interview for you. We're going to talk now with Luke Taylor. He finished 4th. He's the 18-year-old, rookie of the year last year. Hit those sick putts on 14. Hit that 75-footer back-to-back after the 14 make on hole 15 in round 4. Electric stuff from Luke. He played so good this weekend. Chance to talk to him for the very first time here on the Upshot. It's coming up right after this. Joining us now on the Upshot is the 2023 Disc Golf Pro Tour Rookie of the Year. He's former junior world champion as well, and he just finished 4th at the World Championships after being on the lead card the final 2 days. Luke Taylor is with us. Luke, welcome to the program. Glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
So, Luke, what an experience it must have been for you to be in the biggest spotlight in the sport, really, which is late round weekend lead cards at Worlds. I know your mom posted that she drove overnight on Saturday to come be there on Sunday. What was this experience? Just kind of the being with the thousands of fans watching and everybody at home paying attention. What's that been like?
I mean, like you said, it's the pinnacle of our sport. It's the goal and the dream that you have when you first make that your pursuit. That's been my dream for many years now, just playing the game and watching Jomas and being I want to be on that lead card come final day at the World Championships. So you find yourself in that position. It's kind of surreal. But it's been great, just the afterwards and having so many people build you up and excited to watch you play. And then just in the moment, just trying to soak it all in and just enjoy the game for what it is, the level at which you're playing it, and to really experience the people around you and just to take it all in. It's been amazing. And it makes me want to be there more often if I can, for sure.
When you were preparing for the World Championships prior to the tournament, what were your expectations about what you felt like you could realistically accomplish?
I mean, realistically now, I think my goals revolve toward the top 10. I feel like, I mean, I've had a few finishes there this year, and when I'm finishing there, it feels like I'm playing how I'm supposed to be playing. I'm executing the shots in front of me at the level at which I feel like I'm supposed to. So, top 10 is what I probably shoot for every event, but like top 20, top 10, just somewhere where I can finish the event feeling like solid about it. But I did know going into this event that New London was going to be a course that favored my style of gameplay. I hadn't yet seen Ivy Hill, but I heard it was a super elevated, pretty open course, so I kind of just thought of it at like Toboggan, and I've played there many times. So just being able to kind of draw that reference there and know that New London Tech was going to favor my game certainly gave me confidence going into the event. So,
and specifically going into the final round, at that point, you've already put together 4 awesome rounds. Are you thinking I can go out there and win it today? Or did you kind of say to yourself, maybe I'm shooting for a podium finish, just given where scores were?
At that point in time, it's like I knew that if I shot a course record hot round that I could win the event. So I knew it was going to take something special, which obviously, I mean, that didn't happen. But, towards the end of the round, obviously, it's just shooting for as high as you can place. I tried really hard not to put a position or scoring goal on it. I just wanted to walk off the course feeling like I gave it my all and, kept myself in it the whole time. And, I'm very grateful and very grateful and thankful. Same thing. To have finished in the top 10, even the top 5. And I mean, that's my best finish ever on an elite series or a major. So it is certainly many positives to take away. Even though we didn't quite get podium, obviously that would have been really cool. But I'll take very gratefully 4th place. So, but I didn't really have like a scoring goal. I knew what it would take to win, and that didn't happen. But I'm happy that I finished solid.
I just did a quick perusal of your PDGA page and Disc Golf Pro Tour standings page, and last season you played in a handful of DGPT events. The notable highlights: Music City Open, 16th, and then 11th place at MVP Open. Both are very good. But this season, as you mentioned, you have, I think, like 4 top 10s now.
Yep.
Including a 4th place at Worlds. Is it just you playing more of these events? I know you're only 18 years old, and so but you were competing. And when I look, I mean, you had a rough start for the season, but you've been inside the top 40 for the rest of the season at every tournament you've played at. What's different about this season, and what's leveling up your game to what's a very impressive level?
I think the first part of the season, I credit it kind of to, like, I was in shape because of basketball, but I hadn't had the opportunity to practice a whole lot. I was graduating high school. As soon as I graduated high school, I was able to focus completely on my career and what I wanted to do. So, I mean, having more available time to focus on your game, finding a stroke and a consistent style of play that worked for me. And, I think just being sick of playing bad, just like I will do what it takes to shave off a few strokes at these events and try to move my way up the field. So just trying to come in with a better mental frame, trying not to focus on the bad shots and just focusing more on bouncing back. So, I still throw out a bounce. I had some rough stuff happen at Ivy Hill, but I mean, I was able to mitigate the damage and come back stronger the next day. So, I really think the most important change that I've made is just coming at it with a better mental frame of mind, taking it one shot at a time and trying to focus on the moment. Whereas in the past, I've focused on a particular score I wanted to shoot. And I realized that now it's different every day and you have to adjust given the circumstances. So
I think I probably speak for some other people when I say that your kind of big explosive appearance this weekend, which included some amazing shots, by the way, and we can talk about that in a second. Even though you were the rookie of the year last year, it still feels like it's coming as a bit of a surprise, even though then I look at your rating and I'm like, this guy's 1032 rated. He's top 20 in the world in ratings. But for whatever reason, maybe because even when you are finishing near the top, it's not always from the lead card. It just doesn't feel like you've been kind of as present in the disc golf mind as other players who have similar results to you. Or because they've been on tour for a long time. So I'm just curious, like looking back through your resume, I mean, you've kind of won at every level so far. And this is the path that we've seen many really strong players take, like a Kyle Klein. We can go back through all the list of junior champions over the past that have kind of gone on to success as a rookie of the year or something like that. Where do you think your trajectory is going? And like, is your ceiling like what we're seeing from the very top guys on tour around that 1040, 1050 rated mark?
I will try to answer this in a modest way. My goal is to be as good as everybody else, and if possible, better. So I would like my ceiling to be as high as a Gannon Burr. He is, and something, that's what I've been commenting on his post too, and, trying to discuss with him. It's been obviously incredible what he's done this season, and people are like he's the prodigy for people of my age, and he sets the bar. He sets the bar for what the next generation is supposed to look like. And that's where I think I see myself being very soon, realistically. I'm putting in the work and I'm playing as consistently as I ever have. And I think I'm really close to, we saw it like kind of last weekend, the breakthrough has started. So I think sky's the limit if I keep my head down and I keep working hard to be as good as I can be.
So you've graduated high school. Are you just planning on doing full-time disc golf for the foreseeable future? What is that long-term plan now in the career of disc golf?
Right now I'm planning on doing this long-term. I really like the tour life and I think I have what it takes to make it out here. But obviously I don't discredit the idea of having a degree in something. I think right now the main thing for me as far as like a educational standpoint goes is I don't have a lot of major interests in what I would like to major in. Obviously there are degrees that can even help from where I'm at right now, like a business degree or a social marketing degree, something along those lines. But as of right now, just trying to figure out the tour and focus on the disc golf before I can implement any sort of online classes or what have you.
Well, it certainly must help to get an $11,000 payday.
Yes.
How big is that for you?
Oh, it's huge. $11,000. That's no small amount of money for any weekend. So it's super helpful, and it makes me think a little bit more like, yeah, you can make this happen. And obviously that's Worlds, pays out a little bit better than most of the other tournaments, but there is more money getting into disc golf. There's more attention gravitated towards disc golf. And I think it becomes more and more of a viable career option if you can stay healthy.
You mentioned right there on the tail end of staying healthy. And I'd love to get your perspective as kind of a young player who hasn't spent as much time on tour. You have to have looked at other players in the professional disc golf scene. And, the most notable one to me, it's got to be Eagle McMahon, a young player, ultra talented, sky was the limit and still probably is, but he has had a career that has been riddled with injuries that he's having to kind of take care of and that have pulled him away from his peak form. As a young player, when you look at the fact that we're playing more tournaments than ever before this season, that it's clear that you're playing local events as well, A tiers, B tiers, getting just as much time playing as you can. What do you think of when you think about like your long-term health as a professional athlete and using this as a career?
I think there are many, many different ways to do it. I think personally I should start stretching. I think that would be a good place to start. I would be lying if I said I was doing a whole bunch of injury prevention stuff as of right now. It's a really good idea. It's something that's been brought up before. as of right now, I don't really have much that I'm doing, but I've experienced elbow pain after long tournaments before. At the country club last year, I ended up getting an elbow brace for Des Moines because I felt like my elbow hurt from just throwing a bunch of big shots. And obviously at the country club, you're throwing a lot of distance drivers and you're throwing the disc really hard. And after that weekend, I felt that I needed to do something about it. My closest friend on the road right now is Cole Rodallen, and he had to unfortunately drop out of Worlds because of his left hip. I believe. I think it was his left hip. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong. But it's stuff that I've seen. Fortunately, my entire life I haven't really had too many injuries to deal with. I'm pretty springy and still young, fortunately. But in the future, I definitely see myself stretching more and just trying to, pitch count is something that I do on the road. Like I'll take one practice day to throw 3 or 4 shots and figure out what I want to do. But the other practice days, I try to focus a little bit more on playing for score and maybe 1 or 2, but I try not to throw a ton of shots because it's a really good way to get injured if you spend 3 days practicing and throw a ton of shots every day. So just try to keep everything in regulation and, not overdo it, I guess is my best injury prevention right now.
You got some takes on Worlds and Isaac winning back-to-back and just kind of you're right there along with everybody else on that ride of those last 2 rounds. Just curious for some general takeaways that you have.
Isaac Robinson is really good at disc golf. Isaac has been a friend of mine for years now, a fellow competitor, a fellow member of Eagles Wings and that whole community. And I'm always rooting for the people that, I enjoy playing with most. And Isaac is certainly somebody that's easy to root for out there. And it was incredible to me how easily he broke down Ivy Hill. I didn't see how he played New London. I wasn't on his card those rounds and didn't really catch much of the action in rounds 1 and 3 in terms of what the feature card was doing. I know that he killed it though. Very impressive how simply he broke down the game this weekend, how well he putted, and how he just he never lost his composure. He had a rough couple of holes in the start of the 4th round, and that was it. That was the only daylight he really showed all weekend. He started off hot in the 5th round, and we're all just like, well, now we're all 7 strokes back. It's super unlikely that we make a comeback now. And if I had shot 9 under on the back 9, I think I might have tied him. So, it was just a super impressive performance and, he fair golf out there. The best player won the event. He played better than everybody else straight up. So, I didn't see him get lucky really at all. He made his putts, he threw his drives in bounds and broke down the courses. It was super impressive to watch.
All right. I have to bring it up. You hit 2 highlight reel putts on hole 14, the very dangerous hole 14, that delivered misery to so many, including Nicholas Antela in that final round. I think a lot of players despised this hole. How do you feel about the hole? You obviously got some pretty sweet moments from it, but is it a kind of hole that we should have on tour?
I do credit a lot of my highlights to that hole this weekend. Like you said, couple big makes there. In terms of just momentum, the pressure of the moment, just taking advantage of what was in front of me. However, we can't have a green like that. It's there when you have rocks underneath the basket, when you have a 45-degree slope. Nobody can realistically even approach that green. I'm playing to down there, and if I make the putt, awesome. Thank you. I will take the bonus birdie every day of the week. However, you can't have a putt where you're on a 45-degree slope. The chains are and I talked to Calvin Heimberg about this after the Antela spit out because he's got a chemical engineering degree, and I was I want to know what's going on and what you could do to fix these baskets. And that was my initial thought, like everybody else, but it's not the basket's fault. It's the fact that we're putting up a slope that's legitimately 45 degrees. And when the chains are shaped like this and the disc is coming in like this, the chains just want to push it out. So they just don't catch. We can't have a basket that's literally going to be like pointless because of the way that the green is shaped. So I don't like the hole. I think it's silly. I talked to Cole about it during the practice rounds. There was a beautiful slope up to the right side with pine trees lining it. I don't know if we could have put it up there, it would have been a little bit less severe, and it would have made for like a really good like kind of forehand or turnover approach into the green. Would have been super dope, honestly. You can even do the same thing with the OB if you want, but it was just all of us kind of walk up to that hole and we're like, well, we can't approach the green, so we'll take our 60-footer for birdie, and it's just, and if we make it, great, and if we don't, you certainly don't want to hit the basket because it might spit out or hit the cage and roll to 100. So a little bit silly in my opinion, but
I think it's an opinion shared by many. You talked about Gannon and him kind of setting the mark for people of your generation and what young disc golfers can and are able to do. Who have you, though, modeled your actual gameplay off of, your style, the way you choose to throw, the way you choose to break down courses?
Like I said, my best friend on tour is Cole. I feel like I have a very similar style of play to him. I practice with him a lot. My backhand form before I even met him was modeled after what I thought he looked like when he throwed. I can see now that there are certain differences between us just because of the way that, he's 5 inches taller than me. So he throws a little bit differently than I do. But at the end of the day, I mean, I like his style of play. It's very smooth. And I think a lot of people can agree with that. I am a backhand dominant player similarly to him. And we kind of bounce ideas off each other and figure out what's going on. The person I modeled growing up was Paul Macbeth. It's a pretty safe person to base your gameplay off of. And his form was just simple, and he always obviously broke down the courses super well. I mean, he won so many tournaments. So just watching him growing up and be like, he's the best in the world, I want to throw like him, So that's kind of who I modeled my gameplay after. And then when I watched Cole take down Ledgestone, I was like, his form just looks like it would suit what I want to do a little bit better. And, I think it has certainly helped my backhand form to kind of have that image in my head, but also now it's just kind of second nature to throw the way that I do. So I don't see myself changing my backhand form anytime soon. I love where it's at. I'm still trying to figure out how to throw a sidearm. It's not easy for me. It has never come like super naturally for me. But I think once I get that locked down, I don't see myself walking away from where I'm at in terms of my style of play. I love the way that I play disc golf. I think it gives me the best chance at success. So,
how did you guys get to know each other, you and Cole?
Through Eagle's Wings, but also he chose the RV life similar to me. There are basically two trains of thought on the road. It's the RV or it's Airbnb. I chose the RV. We ended up staying at the same campground once, for Champions Cup. We were next door neighbors all weekend. And we discovered that we enjoy doing a lot of the same stuff, have very similar hobbies, and, when you have somebody that you can do stuff with off the course and on the course, it makes it a lot easier to kind of connect with them in that way and hang out with them more through stuff off the course. It's really important to have a life off the course too on the road, keep you busy.
For next season and your plan, you talk about RV life. Are you, I guess it's a 2-part question. First, are you on a 1-year contract? How long are you on your deal with Discraft?
Yeah, I've been on a 1-year contract. The past 2 years re-signed again. So after this year, my contract will be up, but, obviously still in the works and would love to stay with Discraft if they'll have me.
And hoping then, is RV life kind of what you enjoy, or is that just the most economical in terms of the options available, and that's why you choose to do it?
I love how it turned out. I think the first thought process when we started doing it, we as in my mom helping me figure out what I want to do, my mom and my dad. But I love the way that it turned out. But when we started, obviously, it's like, this is cheaper than buying an Airbnb every night. You're still paying for gas regardless of how you do it. It's easier to have all your stuff in one place. You can take more stuff with you. So I think RV life is just kind of what we decided to go with, because first of all, it seemed like the most efficient, but I love the way that it turned out because I can have all my stuff with me. Like, because of the lifestyle that I've chosen, I have basically my house and all my accessories that I really need or want with me. Like, I have all my pickleball, my tennis, my golf, just all of my hobbies I can fit in there. So it's really convenient, and I love how it turned out for me.
I think it would be helpful for folks to know a little bit more about how you got into disc golf and how you've been coming up, through the ranks in the junior circuit and everything else.
Yeah. So, I started taking disc golf seriously, in 2018. I should say the end of 2017. 2018 was the USJ DGC, the first one. That was at Smuggler's Notch. I played.
So you're like 12 years old, just to clarify.
Yes, 12 years old when I started taking it seriously. Disc golf's been around in my family since I was born. That's kind of when my mom and dad discovered the game. So I've always had discs around the house, but it was mostly a hobby until then. I stopped playing baseball in middle school. That was kind of what I had going for me. I was pretty good at it at the time. That's kind of what I had until I decided to start playing disc golf. And from there, I've taken it seriously since then. And, there was the 2021 Junior Worlds, went and won that, and I went professional after winning that event. So, I've been a pro since I was 15 years old. I played on the local scene a lot. Played a few tour events in 22. Didn't really have like too great of a season other than Preserve. Played, I think, 9 events last year, and that went like okay. It didn't like break any expectations. Obviously, I had a couple of good events like Josh mentioned, but this year has been my breakout year, highlighting the world's performance. So, and really my first full year on tour, I guess you could say, because last year I only played X amount of events. So it's, I just got into disc golf because we've always had it around the house, and realized that I was pretty good at it right around when I was 12, and kind of took it seriously since then.
Expectations and goals to finish out the season.
Make the tour championship, 29th right now. If I just keep playing my game, I'll do that. I would like to finish in the top 20 at the rest of the events. It's a tough goal to achieve because there are so many good players and anybody can pop up from week to week. But that's where my game is at right now. That's where I feel like I should be finishing. Like you mentioned, top 20, highest rating in the world. That's where I feel like I should be at. So that's what my goal is. Placing wise, I'd love to grab at least one more top 10 on my way out. I think 5 top 10s is a really credible season. And the more points you get, the better, because you get more strokes at the Tour Championship. And that's kind of where my head's at. Now that I'm in the Tour Championship, what can I do to give myself as many strokes as possible with the way it's formatted this year? So just continue solid play. Is really my only goal. Finish in a way that I can feel happy with, honestly, and satisfied.
Awesome. Well, Luke, clearly someone to keep an eye on. Appreciate you joining us today, and congrats on not only the success at Worlds, but having some of the best highlights. Nate Doss was going crazy. I'm sure you've heard the comments from Nate in round 4.
I ran into Terry Miller at a Waffle House after round 5, so that was kind of funny. So that was a lot of fun. And I actually ran into Nate Doss before the event started, and then was like, man, it'd be great if I could just get on lead card and you can kind of watch me play this week. That'd be great. And then it happened, and I was like, that's kind of sick, to be honest.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been a lot of fun.
Of course. Well, keep up the great play, and we'll it looks like we'll see you at the Tour Championship.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys.
Luke Taylor with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Upshot. Luke Taylor, he's going to be an impressive player, I think, Josh. He's got all the hallmarks of being that next wonderkind 19, 20-year-old who's winning a tournament. Like, tell me that this is not a trajectory similar to what we saw from Gannon.
It absolutely is. And, you know, he is, when you look at his disc golf pro tour standings this year, I could not believe it. I was shocked at just how well he's been playing this season, because he's gotten top tens, but hasn't really had a lot of coverage. But I mean, really,
I just feel like we've barely talked about him.
Yes, but he is well on his way to earning a disc golf pro tour championship berth at 18 years old, and that speaks to the consistency of his season. So,
yeah, he's
big
been
thanks
good.
to Luke. Yeah,
he's been good. I mean, he didn't play that much at the beginning of the year. I think if you extrapolated him out, having played similarly like the whole season, he would be like top 15 right now.
Right.
So a guy to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Let's talk some FPO. It was a crazy ride. In the end, Eveliina Salonen able to hold off Cap Merch, goes into 18 with a 3-shot lead, cruises to victory there, but it was no easy feat at any point this weekend for Eveliina. The putter was a big problem. There were times where she was losing the drive, but ultimately she put it all together. She threw some of the best shots in the field, and she got the birdies when she really, really, really needed them. That 3-birdie stretch from 13 to 15 in the final round decided the tournament. Basically, It was Cap Merch's to lose, and then Eveliina put on the pressure and closes out a 2-shot win over Cat. So obviously, we've known how great Eveliina can be. We've talked about all she has to do is get back to league average as a putter, and she's going to win tournaments. Josh, she can do it without even getting to league average.
That is true, but I want to put one qualification on that case. You are right that she can, without shooting league average, still win a major. I don't think she can bank on that, though. Right? Holland Hanley, blow up 8 over.
Yep.
That if she had shot anything that she had shot in previous rounds, wins this tournament. Right? And now Eveliina, she lays up. It's +1. We can splice the numbers a little bit and mess around with them. But the point is, like, if Holland shoots a 2 under or a 3 under, like she did in rounds 2 and round 4 respectively, Holland probably wins this tournament. If Kristen Tatar does not shoot one of her just worst performances in round 1 relative to the field and goes 11 strokes down to Holland to begin the tournament, so she shot 5 worse than Eveliina in round 1 and lost to Eveliina by, 5 strokes. Hey, look at that, right? If Kristen shoots an okay round 1, we're talking a whole different ballgame here at the end. If Kat Mertz doesn't have 3 holes where she gives 7 strokes back, if not more than, right? 7 strokes back to par, not even if, Eveliina went 2 under in that stretch. So 9 strokes over 3 holes, it's a whole other ballgame. So I don't want to discredit what Eveliina did because she throws the disc, and I said this in the reacts and I'll say it again. She throws the disc better than any player in any division. She, when you account for distance, she is the elite in distance, but she shapes shots, and it's one that makes her such an amazing woods player to watch because it's just like how hard she throws that disc and how well she still carves up that line. She
Such clean release, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Snap out of the hand.
Incredible.
Bam. It's like
it's incredible.
Yeah.
She's got to do something with that putter. If she does.
Obviously.
If she does. Dude, she does.
You be careful what you wish for.
Well, I was about to say she could be the most dominant player of FPO ever.
We could be done talking about Kristen.
Oh, heck. The GOAT debate between Paige and Kristen would be obsolete if Eveliina became an 80% putter.
She would have
Right?
won. She would have won easily this weekend.
Yes.
Easily. And it's hard for it not to be the story, you know? Like,
I know.
she missed 23 Circle 1 putts this weekend. That's just Circle 1. She went 0 for 23 from Circle 2. These are not good results.
46 strokes.
That's
Charlie,
what I'm saying.
Imagine if she makes like 10% of that. She makes
Josh
20%
has been
of
forced
those.
to whisper.
That is.
I hear you.
She wins this tournament by double the next player.
Yeah, it would have been crazy. She said that in the interview after we were talking to her in the booth, she said that she's been changing her putt like a little bit throughout the season. And I felt like that was happening. And I was like, am I crazy? No, I'm not crazy. That was happening. It has been happening. She said she's going to pick one and stick with it. That's her like priority for the offseason, which is a good thing.
Good priority.
Need that. Since 2020, we've had 15 FPO majors. 8 of those majors have been won by Europeans, 7 of them by Americans.
I love this stat. This stat
6
makes my
for
heart so
Kristen,
happy.
2 for Ev, both this season.
Forget President's Cup. This is what matters here. Hey, Charlie, in case you didn't know, Europeans are really, really good at disc golf. And especially on the FPO side, like the best talent in the world exists on the on the other side of the pond.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way around that fact. Eveliina becomes the first Finnish player to win a world title. She's just the 4th player in disc golf history, FPO or MPO, to hail from outside the U.S. and win a Worlds. The others, of course, Kristen, Birgitta Lagerholm back in 2004, and Elaine King, who's Canadian, back in the 90s. So that alone makes her rarefied air, and she's making national newspaper headlines in Finland this week.
Yeah, you know, I actually heard that someone submitted a bill to the Finnish parliament requesting that Eveliina's face be put on the Finnish national flag. So now it's the blue and white in Eveliina. I mean, look,
it always
Finland
seems to flap a little left or a little right. It's never quite.
I mean, Finland's got to be just over the moon right now, and
It's awesome.
I think it was funny. Eveliina said in her interview that she promised her friends that she would go home and celebrate with them if she won Worlds, and so now she's going to be flying back to Finland to celebrate before she comes back and finishes, the rest of the tour. It's also, I said this in the reacts as well. What an emotional victory, not just for Eveliina, but for disc golf fans in general. She said in the interview that she always wanted to be a world champion. She didn't know in what, and maybe now she puts aside the field hockey to focus on disc golf because she's done it. She is a player who is incredibly kind, whose struggles are also relatable, because I think a lot of amateur players feel that pain and like the pressure point of stress misputting when the nerves get to you in tournaments. She is just so happy and upbeat, and one that other players love. And then when she speaks in Finnish at the end to tell her grandparents that she loves them, just a very emotional and amazing storyline for Eveliina, and one that I just think any fan of disc golf has to be a fan of that win. And that's something that you want from Worlds, right? You want to have the heartwarming stories come out of it as well. Not just the competitive element, but the personal side as well. It makes the sport so much more engaging. And that's, other sports do a really good job of focusing on that. They talk about players, history, their upbringing, about their finding of the game, and it's team sports especially. It's easier to find some of those personal narratives because you have more players to look at than just the individual winner. But man, does Eveliina just have a wonderful story to tell, and that really creates an emotional connection to this world championship as well, which always improves things, and I think it's just a great part of our sport.
I was really impressed. I asked Eveliina in the interview after the final round, when you took the double bogey on 12 what was going through your mind at that point. And she said she almost gave up. And it felt like her tournament had ended there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then she heard she was only 3 back. She doesn't have phone service because she's in the U.S. or something. I don't know how. I mean, she spends a lot of time in the U.S. I think she should just get a U.S. SIM. She needs a burner phone or something. And she rattles off 3 birdies in a row. Super, 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 super clutch. And takes the tournament, reins back and is able to then stay steady. Murch has to go for 17, blows it. 3-shot lead going to 18. Hard to screw that one up.
Yep.
So, taken in total, right? You go back to round 1, and Eveliina shoots a 4 down. Then she shoots a 5 down. Around 3, she shoots an 8 down. Around 4, only a 2 under. And final round, 1 over. Obviously, she had some strokes to play with late, but
yeah, I said give her even at least for the layup.
She really took advantage of those middle rounds, and everything matters. Like those circles, edgy 25 to 35 footers that she hit at the end of the New London round 3. Those felt huge at the time, and I think they were huge.
Yeah.
Like having those strokes mattered going into the final round and into the final few holes. It's so easy to focus only on the final round, but like so much work gets done at these tournaments early on. And I think Eveliina looked really sharp. I mean, she almost had an amazing first round too, but then she gave away a couple bogeys right at the end. If she hadn't done that, she would have had probably the second or third best round of the day, and still able to kind of persevere through it.
Yeah.
Do you think she's going to win another one?
Yeah, I do. Another Worlds or another major?
Worlds.
Probably. I definitely give her a favor. And this is something that was interesting, and I was chatting with, I kind of stirred the pot a little bit. Someone asked me if I wanted to revisit my take about Worlds next year in Europe, and whether or not I thought, because I said at that time I think Holland is your long distance favorite. Some people were upset, and probably justifiably so, that I wasn't giving Eveliina enough credit. And someone commented after that she hasn't made a circle 1 putt in 2 days, and that felt kind of true. It's one though that, like, Eveliina and Holland, when you look at them, it really feels like once Kristen's time is done, and I don't think it is. Let me be clear. I think Kristen still has to be the odds-on favorite in any tournament that she plays in. And
the Kristen takes are getting crazy. We're going to talk about them next week.
Yeah, but once the Kristen era is over, and I don't know when that'll be, but in 12 months we could be saying that the torch has passed. I don't think that's an unrealistic belief, but again, not yet. But once it does, it does. You don't have to squint very hard to say Holland and Eveliina stand together atop about who the future of the FPO game is. And both of them have issues that they need to fix. And both of them are volatile players that have areas they need to fix. But Eveliina needs to be talked about in the same way that we talk about Holland as the future of the FPO game. And with that, I think comes additional world championships.
If she putts, she's going to win a lot more. It's just that simple. And she doesn't, she's been up and down, and it was still enough this weekend. And that's in part because other players couldn't take advantage.
Yeah.
Opportunities were there. And, Holland blows up on 14. Cap Murch, who looked so smooth and relaxed most of the weekend, ends up getting tight late. But always look back and you think about, well, what about those double bogeys? Like, could have been a different story for Kat if she had played a little better in that stretch of bad play in round 3. So much more to get to. We're not going to get to it all tonight. We've already got a long show. So we're going to put a pin in some of these conversations, and we'll come back to them next week as we continue our Worlds conversation and take your mail as well. So get your thoughts in, mailbag questions. Looking forward to discussing everything. And before we go today, though, I do want to hit Pursewatch real quick. Joshua, what do we got for the purse?
MPO payout comes in at $199,595. Just shy of that $200,000 mark for MPO. Fat. FPO $85,405. Also fat. Comes out to a nice round $285,000. Here's what's interesting, Charlie. This actually was not the highest purse per player of the season. At 297 players, it comes out to $960 per player. For reference, Champions Cup was 1,007. So Champions Cup still has more added cash per player than Worlds does right now. But thanks to a large pool below, MPO winners payout comes out to $30,000. Nice payout. The highest payout we've ever seen for anything that's not a Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. Absolutely
massive.
FPO winner payout comes out to $17,000. Also a massive payout. Just a spectacular. It comes in $10,000 higher than last season, $275,000 with 3.64% growth.
So pretty stable, pretty flat, but big money.
Yep.
And huge, like life-changing, not a lot life-changing, but like tour-changing level money for players even up into the top 5, not just the winner.
Yep.
All right. Picks real quick. Josh gets blanked in the MPO podium. He had Gannon, Ricky, and Ezra. None of those picks were like terrible, Josh. I think all those guys finished around the top 10.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, none of them on the podium. I had
all
Isaac
of them
Robinson
inside the top 10.
I knew he was going to play well this weekend, but I didn't
pick.
quite anticipate just how good he was going to be. But I get a point for him. Josh and I both had Kristen to win. That was wrong, but we both get a point for that. I also had Eveliina on my ballot. For a little while there, I thought I might get the perfect podium in FPO. I had Kristen, Holland, Ev. But obviously Holland dropped off. Kristen took that last podium spot. So ultimately, I get 2 points for that. Hole 18 review. We don't do it every week, but we got to do it for the majors. I didn't like this one. I really didn't. I didn't like it from the jump. I didn't like it after I watched it for one round. I didn't like it later in the tournament. The only thing I liked about it was kind of like having the fans be in a circle around the players as they tapped out for the final putt. But no drama.
None.
Not a ton of danger.
Nope.
Like very playable for par. Not eagleable, really.
Yep.
Like it's kind of just like a tweener hole that just the only reason it's there is to get us from the bottom of the hill back up to the clubhouse. We got to do better than that next time. It's just not a good. It's one of the worst holes in the course. I ultimately felt.
I wish they would have shortened it to make it a par 4, because what you could have done if you shorten and make it a par 4, what you do is you give people an opportunity to. Well, the problem is even shortening the par 4 doesn't really fix it because of the uphill nature of it. Is just never going to allow an eagle, and so you need it to make it either a very difficult birdie. Or like a fairly difficult birdie where you've got like 20% of the field maybe, or even 15% are able to get birdie, but that's taking a really aggressive line that pushes you further up the hill and also then is going to give you worse footing as opposed to laying up to the bottom of the hill. You could even lay up to the bottom of the hill though and still take a birdie on this one. Didn't love it. Needed some fixing for sure. I thought it was equally not great in FPO as well.
We'll talk more Ivy Hill next week. Get your thoughts in. Of course, we heard what Luke and Isaac had to say about it. So appreciate you tuning in. Please give us a like and subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, go there, Ultimate World Disc Golf, and give us a sub there as well. Just one show on the main feed this week. I'm getting ready for the Ultimate Frisbee World Championships, and time zones are crazy. I'm like literally falling asleep right now at the table, but appreciate everybody, and please get a subscription to check out our rapid reacts from this week. They were so much fun, and much more to come on the Upshot. So for Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood signing off. We will talk to you next week right here on the Upshot.